Hello friends. Today I'm going to start a new series on time intelligence. There are around 44 plus DAX time intelligence functions available, and they are pretty much dependent on calendar table. The reason why I'm starting this series is I see still there are a lot of questions on Power BI community forum which are uh, on time intelligence, but they are not using the basics and the fundamentals of the time intelligence, which is basically adding a calendar table. In today's video, I will talk about the basics of time intelligence, what calendar table is, how it impacts the performance, what we should be doing. And then in the coming videos, we will further debug each and time intelligence function and how they work. And because I've seen sometimes people say, oh, I don't get the result correctly when I'm using time intelligence function. So let's first look at today's video, the basics of time intelligence, basic of calendar table, and then keep on doing the videos on from here onwards. So here I have a very basic, very simple Power BI report. It has a sales data with three or four, actually four different uh, order date, due date, and ship date columns. These are date columns. And now the first and the foremost things is, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen this many times. We have this hierarchy in the each date column. Here I'm showing a sales amount by year and using due date. So there is a hierarchy. Where this hierarchy coming from? By default, a date table get created, hidden date table get created for each date column in your model. If in your settings auto date time is turned on, this table will get created. And as you will see, and that's what makes the hierarchy. So there is a hidden table which is not available to us, but due date is a date column and it has a hidden date column behind the scenes in the model, and that this hierarchy is built on that. And similarly we have the order date, and similarly we have the ship date. So what does that means is, if you have a 10 different date columns in your model, like in a different fact tables, you will have that many date tables behind the scene. So what will that do is, first it will increase your data model size to a larger size, because that many number of date calendar tables are behind the scene. Second, there is no common dimension, right? If you want to see the orders by month, for example, you want to see the order dues by month and order shipping by month and orders by month, you don't have a common dimension where you can visualize these three data points at the same time. So first and the foremost, the basic fundamental is, you should never use auto date time on or the hidden tables in your model. What you should be doing is, basically in your, this is one of the best practices in option and settings, under options, you should turn off auto date time. If you go on data load, there is a auto date time check mark. So this is checked, and that's where the hidden tables are created. You can turn it off at the report level, but you can also turn it off at the global level. If you go on a global data load, and here you can turn off auto date time for new files off. I have turned it off, so anytime I create a new file, these hidden date tables never get created. And so that's first, the basic fundamental is turn off your auto date time off in your report, and so that these hidden tables does not get created. Now let's see, I have a similar file where I have this auto date time turned off, and if you go in a sales table, now I have the same table, due date, and sorry, let's go to the sales table. I have the same order date, due date, ship date columns. But if you go in the sales table, there is no hierarchy. It means auto date time is turned off. So I did not have the auto date time turned on in this particular report. So if I go back to options and setting and options, just to quickly see it, and I turned it off, and data load and auto date time is turned off, and that's why those hidden tables are not there. Now that's the first thing. So I turned it off, no hidden tables. Second thing is, okay, I added a date dimension in your model. There is many ways you can create it. There is nothing right or wrong. You can create by M query. You can have in your backend RDBMS system, you have a dimension table there, and that's you bring in. You create it by DAX. That's also okay, but you should have it. The point here is you should always have a date dimension in your model. The first thing you do in your Power BI report, create a calendar dimension or date dimension, whatever you know want to call it. Now, I used calendar auto here. This is also not a good idea. Always use calendar. If you are creating with the DAX, right, you always use calendar. Calendar auto is the reason. What it does is look at the max and the min date in your table, in your data set, and then it creates a table. Second thing you always wanted to do is, as soon as the date table is created, you select the date table and mark it as a date table. How you do mark it as a date table? Because I already have marked it. So let's unmark it, and you go to mark as date table, and then you pick the column which is the unique date column will be a unique value, and then the date column you pick and it validate that. So what make it a date table? It should not have a blank value. The date should be continuous. There should not be any missing date, and it will be a unique value. So that's what it checks. And if all those three conditions are met, and then you can mark it as a date table. When you mark it as a date table, then you will see the date column itself look like a different icon. So that's what now tells us this is marked as a date table. Now we have a common dimension, which is great. So we have a multiple date columns, and now people always ask, okay, there was a hierarchy. I lost my hierarchy. If we saw in the previous Power BI file, the auto date time has like a year, quarter, month, and day as in a hierarchy. You can create your own hierarchy. You can, now here I have created, you can create as many as you want. So how you create the hierarchy, it's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to delete this one for now. And so what you go, maybe I was using it and that's why I get an error. So go click on the column which you want to start as in a hierarchy. So I'm going to create hierarchy. So that's my year column. Then I can have my after year, I want it to be a quarter. So that's what the drill down I want to use. So I can add it to hierarchy. And then I want the month. That's my next level. So basically what you are doing is, whatever the hidden table has created the hierarchy, you create it by yourself, right? So you are, people I've seen all say, okay, I lost my hierarchy, and I really need that. You create your own. There's no problem with this, and then create add. So now I have this hierarchy, and because I was using it here, and then you can it works fine. Now that's the one thing. Now second thing is, once we have it, so two things we did: we created a date table, we marked it as a date table. That's an important step. And the third thing, we created a hierarchy the way we wanted it. Fourth, what we're going to do is create a relationship. Again, I have a one date dimension and one sales table, so we have a three different relationship. So people say, okay, no, there's one active and two non-active relationship. So once we create a relationship between tables, there's always only one active and others can only be inactive. So only one active relationship at a time. So in this case, I have used date with the order date as an active relationship, and the other two, like date and due date, date and ship date, are inactive relationship, which is fine. So, but what it gives me the advantage, now here I'm looking the data by year. So I am looking the order amount and orders due, amount of the orders due by the due date, and total order amount by the year. So now I can look that both values, due date by year, order amount due by year, and regular order amount by year. So I can see both parallelly at the same time using the common dimension. I'm using this from my date table. And how I did that, orders amount is simply a sum of orders amount, the sales amount. There is nothing special in this. And then the second measure I'm using orders due, that is next to it. So order dues amount is, so that's a the base measure, which is orders amount. And then using the use relationship function, the use relationship function allow us to make inactive relationship to active. So whenever I use orders due measure, it is always using the relationship between the date dimension and the sales due date in that in this particular measure. So even the relationship is inactive, we are making it active in this particular measure. So now we can, using the common dimension, the year, and on top of that we are using the sales order amount and the order amount by the due date. So this is all great. So this is perfectly fine. So we got a common dimension, not many, our model is smaller, and because there's not many hidden date tables, and also we have a common dimension on which we can work on. Now one other thing is, like if I look at the sales table, which is the biggest impact on the performance apart from all other things. So my sales table is here, in this case has around if you look at 60,000 rows approximately, with three date columns: order date, due date, and ship date. Now using the date dimension column and turning off the auto date time has reduced the size drastically, even with such a small table. Look at that. So I have this page here, where I'm showing, I took the data from Vertipack Analyzer. So here I have an auto date time off, and my total model size is 493 kilobyte, and there is only two tables, of course, a sales table and the date table, whatever the columns. And then we have the when the auto date time was on, the model size was 2.2 megabyte. So 60,000 rows were 2.2 megabyte with the 6 tables. Now the other 4 tables were the hidden tables and some other stuff. So you can see, by turning off the auto date time off and adding our own calendar table, we have the great functionality. Our data model size has reduced by 75%, just 60,000 rows. And with the 3 date columns, think about if this was 100 million rows or 20 million rows or 10 million rows, how big the impact that would have been. So this is the starting point. So again, to summarize, auto turn off date time, you should do it globally so that it never get created. Add your own calendar table, does not matter how you add it, through DAX, through Power Query, through View, does not matter, but there should always be a calendar dimension in your model. Third thing, mark it as a date table. I showed you where you can do that. So mark it as a date table. That is really important. Then create the relationship between your common dimension date table with your fact tables. Multiple date columns in your fact table does not matter. There will be inactive relationship. You can make those active in your measures. And the fifth thing is, you can now see the data in the common dimension. You can visualize the data at the same dimension. And one last point in this one is that yes, you can create your own hierarchies the way you want it. You want year, month, quarter, month, date. You want year, month, date. Whatever the order you want it, you can create your own hierarchies in your date dimension and then use that in the visualization. So this is the first and the basics of the time intelligence, what you need to do in your model to take advantage of 44 plus time intelligence DAX functions which are available in Power BI. And we will go through those DAX functions in the coming videos. Until next video, have a great day. Bye for now. Do subscribe my channel when you get a chance. Bye for now. Thank you.